Hello and welcome to Community Conversations. My name is Laura Jenkins, and for our first conversation, we'll be talking with Edwin Lindo, one of the co-founders and curator of Estelitas Library. Edwin and his partner and wife, Estell Williams, opened Estelitas Library, a justice-focused community library and bookstore in Beacon Hill in 2018. Some of you in the Central District may have noticed the new Estelitas on MLK between Jackson and Washington. Edwin, I'm really excited to be talking with you today. And to get us started, can you tell us a little bit more about founding Estelitas and what prompted the move from Beacon Hill to the Central District?
Yeah, Laura, thank you so much for having Estelita as myself. We're excited to keep continually connecting with the community. So this is exciting. Doing podcasts now with COVID, right? Everyone is learning how to get the message out and do all this in a way to make it accessible. So I appreciate you all for doing that. So quick story on how we started. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that you can find on Google on how we started. But in a nutshell, it was little Estella, who's our 3-year-old, going to be 4-year-old daughter, had just been born and was spending a lot of time at the station coffee shop. And so the owners of the station coffee shop are Luis and Leona, amazing people, an institution in Beacon Hill in Seattle. And we're so grateful for them. And they had moved from their old spot that was right across the street from where they currently are. And I had talked to Luis and Leona and said, we have this crazy idea of opening a library, a social justice focused library. And they're like, yeah, that's great. Do it. And within 48 hours, went in there, me and a few others, good brother Kiyoki Silvano, helped put shelves up. We had Pedro Mesa, Aaron Bassett, helping get things put together. And so a ton of people in the community were like, this is great. We love it. Let's build it out. And it started with just a collection of the books that we had here at our house. I'm a professor, and I've done a lot of community organizing, and I've learned a lot from our ancestors and our elders who have either written or told stories. And we just realized it's not right and or fair that that information gets hoarded and kept in a little space somewhere in someone's office or in their garage. We said, how do we make this available to the community? Because we know this is where a lot of the truth and a lot of the consciousness can come from. And it was embraced in ways that we had never imagined. It's a quirky spot, art all over the place, at least in the old space, massive amount of books, place to sit down, drink your coffee from the station, talk politics, economy, race, identity, organize together, plan events together. We had book talks, poetry readings. We had events for fundraisers. I mean, it ran the gamut from salsa parties to drum sessions and po' boy Fridays. And it really became like a community cultural hub that people said, this is a place that I feel good in, that I can come back to, even though I live in Renton or Tequila, I can come back to Seattle where I grew up. And that means a lot. And we had to leave that place because we were pushed out. They're going to be building a new 68 unit apartment building that is luxury housing. And they really had no place for us. We asked, it was very secretive. We're like, hey, can we stay here? What's the plan? And it was just radio silence. And that's not a good place to be when you're trying to have a community space, is that uncertainty. So with this amazing grant from Seattle Arts and Culture, we got this tiny cultural space grant, and it was a way to expand Estelitas and expand it in this little tiny sliver of property that is thankfully in the Central District. And we see this being one of what we hope is many spaces that Estelitas has, not just in Seattle, but actually around the country. We've had people reach out to us and say, how do we get a Estelitas in Nashville? How do we get a Estelitas in the Bronx? How do we get a Estelitas in San Francisco or LA? And so those are the conversations of expanding this cultural hub in a way that more people can benefit from it. Because at the end of the day, our mission is to decentralize knowledge and to decolonize space, meaning people know that this is theirs. They can walk in. There's no need to transact. There's no need to come in with your money. You come and sit, and you don't actually have that burden of feeling like, well, can I stay here if I don't spend money? You better. This is for you. That we
Yeah.
want you to stay there.
Wow. Yeah. So one of the things that you kind of mentioned with the Beacon Hill location was kind of your partnership with the station and the community around there. What have you already started some partnerships in the Central District as well with some of the different organizations in the area?
Yeah, I mean, you got Africa Town. You got the Medium that is around the corner. You have the number of the stores and the corner stores, uh, neighbors. I mean, we've reached out or we've connected on a personal level. But honestly, at the centerpiece of Estelitas is actually people who grew up here.
Mm.
Aaron Bassett, who grew up in Madrona, still lives there. His kids, other families that come, and making sure that Estelitas is the place that their community again can thrive in, can grow in. Um, and so we having been someone who was displaced, I know the feeling of, okay, I may not live here, but where is the place that I can always connect back into? And we want Estelitas to be that place where they know, like, okay, there's a place I can rest, there's a place I can relax, I can connect with other folks I may not know. And then with the neighborhood matching grant, we wanted to ensure that we had partners that got to see it. So the girls' school, for example, that's across the street,
Mhm.
every Wednesday there's a class that comes and sits on the patio and they have their class. And the beauty of it is there's no permission needed, right? There isn't, oh, sorry if we didn't ask for permission. It's like, no, that's what this is for. Like,
Mhm.
please enjoy it, learn here. Or just yesterday, there was a 9-year-old girl who is growing up in the city, right around the corner from Estelitas, a young Black girl. And me and Estelle and Estella were actually at the library. And she shows up with her box. And we said, well, how are you? And she's like, well, I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. And very proud, standing tall. And we said, well, this is Estelitas. This is your community social justice library. And she said, yeah, that's what my grandma said. And we said, so please make yourself at home. And she said, well, I came here to read some books on Black history. And we said, well, great, you came to the right place.
Yeah,
And spent
definitely.
the next 45 minutes like just looking through all our books and said, well, do you have any books on farming or maybe eating, as it relates to Black people who got free? Like, I'd like to know like what they did and how they learned and how they fed each other. So we had the book on veganism and Blackness, and another book that I forgot the title, it just came out, about understanding the Black identity in the 21st century, of the complexities of it. And she looked at both of the books and she was like, yeah, I'll take both of these. And she lives around the corner, and we said, look, you can take them out, bring them back, and check out some more books when you want. Now, I want to be clear, we are slightly changing our model from what it used to be. We had
Mhm.
a model where people would pay a membership and they would get a library card and they can check books out. What has occurred is, because the space is so small, we want to ensure that there's enough books that folks can actually get access to. So what we're moving towards is that people can come to the space, read the books, and the neighbors that are close by, or folks that are committed to Estelitas, if they need a borrowed book, or they're, especially the children, if they're incredibly interested in something, yeah, please go right ahead. We do have special collections of books that just we can't lend out,
Mhm.
but we're asking most folks to come read the books there, put it back in the space where you'll find it, and then come back again and continue to read that book, so that it is a community library that everyone has access to, and that one day we don't have all the books checked out and then the shelves are empty.
Yeah. And you had mentioned before about the neighborhood matching fund grant, and your partnership with the school across the street in applying for that grant. And so I'm interested. So Seattle Department of Neighborhoods has the neighborhood matching fund program, and they help fund projects that are like from art installations, community events, all of that, anywhere the community really wants to go. And so where are you kind of looking to go with the funding that you've received for Neighborhood Matching Fund? And what are you kind of looking at for your grand opening as well?
Yeah, no, thanks for the question. We're so grateful with Caleb, who is our grants manager, who facilitated this process. We ended up having the privilege to receive a matching grant from the Department of Neighborhoods, which is going to allow us to expand our usable space on this little sliver of property. And so we'll expand our deck so that we can have more outdoor space, especially during COVID, right? The building itself is roughly 240 square feet. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
this massive, like we can have a massive party or event, but figuring out ways to be creative with the outdoor space and
Mm-hmm.
try to make it a flowing kind of big space, yet with a very small building. And we think we'll get there. And we have some amazing designers. The partnerships with Sawhorse Revolution, I mean, is amazing. Like that organization is, they're really angels, have done above and beyond anything they were asked to do. And it's a partnership that I know we're going to carry on for quite a long time.
And they were the ones who built the space, right? Sawhorse
Yeah.
Revolution.
So Sawhorse Revolution, a nonprofit here in Seattle, what they did is they have a all-female identified working group and construction crew of high school students. And so it was actually the high school students that designed with support of adults and built with support of adults through Sawhorse to create what people see now on MLK. So it's pretty remarkable. But with the matching grant, so we'll be able to extend that, and then we'll be able to add a permanent restroom, because at the moment we don't have one. And that's going to be a game changer,
Yeah.
because then people can really spend the time there instead of sitting there and saying, I got to go to the bathroom, let me go home. And by the time you go home, you're like, do I really want to go back outside? So we want to make it a place that does embrace folks and gives that access. And so this allows us to do that. And it also allows us to have like a real grand opening. We're going to have a soft opening probably in the beginning of July, since we won't have finished the project with the matching grant. And then hopefully towards the end of the year, we'll have a official grand opening with all the bells and whistles. But we will have a nice small one, and we'll keep people posted about that on our Instagram.
That sounds so awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
as we're talking, I was already excited to just hear more about the space. It's just such a cool concept. And it's really just hearing you talk, it's even more solidifying how much this is of the community, for the community, and really the people who are actually living there and who have been displaced from the community too. So
Yeah. And some people may ask, well, Edwin, when can we go? Do you have hours? Well, we're all volunteer ran. And we were in the old space as well. But if you see someone in there, just knock on the door and say you want to check it out. And even though we're not officially open, even our official hours are going to be, again, relying on people that can keep the space open. So that is the community. If you see someone, just knock on the door and say, oh, I'd love to check it out. I heard the episode on the podcast, or I read about it, whatever it is. And then some other people may be wondering, how do you support Estelitas, right? It's everything from donations, both book donations, and I want to be very clear, donations that are focused on social justice. We love all books, but we're kind of like the section of the bookstore or the library that is social justice, except it's the whole building. And so if you have books that you're thinking about donating, that they be focused and centered on that. To financial donations, you can go to our website, estelitaslibrary.com, and we have a donation button there. Please feel free to donate. It supports us a ton. I mean, from 3 years ago, Estella and I were scraping to make sure we could pay the rent. And now we're in a position where we can actually not have to worry about that. We can actually focus on the programming, and we can focus on solidifying folks like Caleb for grant management, and solidify other folks to hopefully have more consistent hours. Um, and also buying books. So we're also a bookstore. We're actually one of the few Black and brown owned bookstores on the West Coast.
Mhm.
We were featured in Oprah magazine, which was remarkable.
Whoa.
Yeah. And we do very well. Like, people really want to support the local Black and brown owned bookstores. And so check out our website. Our distributor is Bookshop, which
Right.
is
Yeah.
the folks that manage everything from make sure the book's there, the order, and then sending it to you, and it'll get delivered straight to your home. And it's the way that we keep this working and alive. So super grateful for everyone that's supported so far. And we're only going to continue to grow. Like I said, hopefully expand Estelitas even beyond the Central District. I mean, it'd be amazing to have multiple spaces throughout Seattle and even throughout the state, if not country.
And that's one thing actually I've wondered on the bookshop website. So if you go through Estelita's website and click on the link to buy the books through Bookshop, does all of that money go back to you when you buy those
So
books?
yeah, so it's like a bookstore that has inventory inside. They bought it from a publisher
Mhm.
and then they resell it.
Okay.
It's effectively doing that, but thankfully it's all handled online. It actually streamlines and makes it much more effective for the folks
Mhm.
that want to get those books. And so some people also ask, well, don't you have the inventory at the store? Can I just come by and pick it up? Our space is small. So the brick and mortar, the space, is actually a library. Um, and it's where you get to explore what possibilities, what books, because we have books that you've never imagined. We have books that you saw that just came out on the New York Times bestseller.
Mhm.
The way our model works is, if there's a book that you're really interested in and you'd like to buy it, you can take a picture of it, go in our bookshop, go on our website, and purchase it. And so our model is really throwing a lot of people off, right? Libraries come to us and they're like, what are you? You don't even organize your books. They're not organized. Where's the Dewey Decimal System? And we're like, we don't need to organize it. This is the genre. The genre is social
Mhm.
justice. And the goal is for exploration, right? And serendipity. Like, wow, there's a book about Black Canadians, and there's a book about Mahatma Gandhi and about MLK and Malcolm X and Harriet Tubman and Angela Davis. What's the connection here? And our belief is that there's always a constant thread through the books that we have, but it doesn't actually work when we separate them into different genres, because you have to ask the question, well, where do you put the book about Black Canadians? Do
Mhm.
you put it in the discussion of Canada, or do you put it in the discussion of Black history? But most of the time it's African American history. So that means
Yeah.
it doesn't fall into that. So that book now doesn't become part of the body of knowledge, unless you're looking for Canadian history, right? So our thing is like, let's bring it all into one.
And one thing about the space that you've mentioned is it's, even though there's so much within it, it is kind of limited. And I know a couple of years ago, when the news of this new location first came out, there was talk about the Seattle Black Panther Party's newspapers being in the space. So how will those be incorporated in the new space in the Central District?
Yeah. So it's not the Seattle Black Panther newspapers, it's the Black Panther newspaper. So
Oh,
the Black
okay.
Panther Party, they used to produce a newspaper starting in 1967. I believe it was April 19th was the first publication. And the last one was printed in December 21st, 1980. And so there's about close to 500 original issues that have ever
Wow.
been produced. And I had put it as a mission of mine to try to find every single one of those issues. We are close. We have 420.
Wow.
Um, and they're housed and protected, and they need to be preserved because they're very difficult to come by.
Hmm.
And what we're going to do is we're going to create programming to give access to folks at the space. And so keep a lookout for that. We can't house them there just because of the need to make sure that they are preserved. We're working with some folks, got a small little grant, and it's helping us a ton to digitize, and we're going to need to find some more funding to archive the papers so that people can really dig in and get the learning, because the amount of history and skill and brilliance that they share shouldn't be forgotten, and it shouldn't be sitting on a shelf somewhere as someone's like newspaper that they had thrown away.
Yeah,
It needs to be part of the public domain, and that's the hope.
that's awesome. And I guess just one of the last questions that I had for you is, what's one book that shifted the way that you think?
Yeah, it's a book I recommend a lot of people, so much so that they borrowed it and we don't have any more copies of it in our library. And that is Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire.
Mhm.
Is a phenomenal book. I gotta be clear, it is inaccessible in many ways, in the sense that it's academic, and that's one thing I critique the academic world, and me being in it, is that folks tend to write for themselves, and that's literally why we create Estelitas. Is how do we create a way where that knowledge can be translated? Not that it needs to be dumbed down, because our community is brilliant. It
Mhm.
needs to be translated. Folks in academia use big words not because they're smarter, it's for job preservation, right? They only want certain people to hear it.
Mhm.
How do we make it so that everyone can understand and hear it? But yeah, no, that book it's a powerful one.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to add it to my reading list.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I just want to thank you again for joining us, and congratulations again on the Neighborhood Matching Fund grant too. I'm so excited to visit one day and see what you all do with that funding, and then into the beyond. But this sounds like it's just going to be an incredible community hub in this spot in the Central District. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us a little bit more about your future plans.
yeah. Thank you for having me, having Estelitas. I'm sorry that Estelle couldn't be here. She's at work, but just a big thanks and love to all of the folks in the community that have really supported us during these 3 years, from a little idea that many people were like, that's the wildest thing I've ever heard. Why are you starting a library? To now, I mean, I've heard people say that Estelitas is now an institution of Seattle, particularly Beacon Hill. I mean, Beacon Hill is where we started. It's where our
Mhm.
heart is. And if we're talking about expansion, it would be really cool to have multiple spots, and getting back into Beacon as well.
Yeah, and I was even talking to one of my coworkers, and I saw that you founded Estelitas in 2018, and I thought that it had been founded like multiple years before that, just because of so much you've done so much in just these past couple of years. So it's been amazing to see that, and then just thinking of towards the future, it's so exciting to hear you talk about everything. So
Thank
thank you.
you. Well, Laura, thank you. Continue the amazing work. I'm glad y'all are getting the message out to the community.